some more will join us. Good to go? All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Senator Jim Dill, Senate Chair of the Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry Committee, and welcome to our meeting today. We have a light agenda today. It's going to get, unfortunately, heavier later on, but we only have one public hearing today, and that's on LD 1998, an act to establish a disaster relief fund for potato farmers adversely affected by drought conditions. And we'll start out with introductions, and I'll start with Representative Osher.
Hi, I'm Lori Osher. I represent District 123. That's the majority of Orono, the home of the University of Maine.
Representative Schofield.
Good morning, Senator Dill and everyone else on the committee. My name is Tom Schofield, and I represent House District 112. I live in the town of Webb, and I represent 17 towns and townships in Franklin, Somerset County, the High-Peak region of Maine. And I'm getting some feedback. I don't know if it's on my end or what, but I apologize for it if it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You are getting some feedback. I'm not sure what it is. Representative Hall.
Yes, good morning. Randy Hall from Wilton. I represent District 114 and 6 towns in southern Franklin County.
Representative Underwood.
Morning, I'm Representative Joseph Underwood, Presque Isle, and it's good to see everybody this morning. Thank you.
All right, where are we? House Chair O'Neill.
Good morning. My name is Maggie O'Neill, and I represent House District 15, which is in Saco.
Representative McCray.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Dave McCray. I live in Fort Fairfield. I represent the people of District 148 up in the county. Good morning.
Good morning. Representative Landry.
Good morning, Scott Landry. I live in Farmington. I represent Farmington, New Sharon, District 113. And I had a hard time finding the right link to get in here. I had plenty for next week. Thank you.
Okay. Senator Black. Are you there, Senator Black? Perhaps not. We'll go to Senator Maxman. I guess either one of them are here at the moment, but we still have a quorum. So, Cheryl, before I introduce you and Karen, would you let in Senator Troy Jackson, so we can get things going? And our clerk today is Cheryl McGowan. Our analyst is Karen Netto. As I mentioned, I'm Jim Dill. I represent Senate District number 5, Northern Penobscot County. And we just have one public hearing today, and that's LD 1998, an act to establish a disaster relief fund for potato farmers adversely affected by drought conditions. So with that, we will ask Senator Jackson to introduce his legislation.
Good morning, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, members of the Joint Standing Committee, Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Troy Jackson. I have the honor of representing the good people of Northern Aroostook County in Senate District 1 and serving as the President of the Maine Senate. I'm here today to introduce LD 1998, an act to establish a disaster relief fund for potato farmers adversely affected by drought conditions. Last year, you've, I'm sure, seen stories in newspapers or reports celebrating Aroostook County's impressive potato crop yield in 2021. Some of the headlines include Aroostook's potato crop is so bountiful, farmers need airplane hangars to store it. Maine's potato crop is so big that railroads are being used for the first time in 40 years to transport it. Or Maine potatoes are breaking into more markets after record harvest. And this is all true. And that is awesome for the potato industry. For Maine potato farmers in parts of Aroostook County, the 2021 harvest marked an extraordinary year. outperforming the average yield by almost 20%. However, you can drive 45 minutes to another part of Aroostook County and see that farmers were struggling with drought. And this is true of other areas of the state as well. In recent years, farmers in Maine have been increasingly impacted by climate change. More than just changing temperatures, the impact of climate change can be felt in the form of extreme and increasingly common droughts. Now, I know that changing and difficult weather conditions are just part of being a farmer, and our state's farmers are tough and willing to adapt to those changes. However, sometimes the hits that farms take are just too big to recover easily from. For example, in 2020, a drought year, the statewide yield for potatoes decreased by nearly 15% from the 5-year average. To translate, that means a loss of possibly hundreds of dollars per acre, and that's in just one sector. The ripple effect of this sort of loss does not just mean that farmers are hurt, it's hard on entire communities. The folks that these farms employ, agricultural retailers, mechanics, and more. A major drought year doesn't just mean lower yield, it means real and tangible loss throughout the communities. Science tells us that major droughts like this will become more and more common as climate change progresses. That's why I put this bill forward at the request of Jeremy Pelletier and subsequently worked with Maine Potato Board to make sure that our state is taking steps to protect and preserve our heritage industries that have powered rural communities for generations and will ensure that Maine farms will remain a critical part of the state's character and economy, especially as we experience more extreme weather. I know that the Maine Potato Board is here. I think Don is down in Florida today, but he told me that somebody would be here to share their support for the amended proposal. The amendment broadens the program to include all sectors of Maine's farming economy and deliberately provides grants to help farmers weather extreme conditions. It'll provide funding to farmers in a way that will ensure a brighter future for Maine's proud and storied agriculture sector. And so I just want to kind of lay out how this happened. I was reached by Jeremy Pelletier, who's a third or fourth generation farmer in Frenchville, and asked if I would meet with him over in Cross Lake area where he had some fields. And of course, I'm not a farmer. I understand a little bit about it, but Jeremy took me to a number of his fields, I believe in August, and was really, really concerned about the lack of water, lack of irrigation. I was really impressed with, his knowledge, talking about everything that they had done with the Potato Board and other organizations to try and, do really good science as far as the crop of potatoes, and you could tell how much he had dug into doing everything the right way, but not having water was just something that he could not control. And I think there was a lot of frustration and obviously despair at that time. And what I still have pictures of it at that time. Small potatoes, and then to the really good fortune, things actually turned around. But it wasn't just Jeremy; it was like 10 farmers in more northern part of Aroostook County that were all talking to me about concerns of what their yield was going to be. And so that's why I put the bill in before cloture, to create a process where the people did see drought conditions and they had a loss in their yield, they could get protected. Now that obviously changed, and that's great, and I'm super glad for the industry. But what came of that was that we talked more about it, and one of the fields that Jeremy took me to was actually in unorganized territory, so it's under alert control. And while there was water access relatively close, it was challenging for them to do any irrigation for a number of reasons that I can't quite fathom right now, but understandable. So even though they had water, they couldn't access it. You know, I think that's something that it would be great for this committee to work on too. But the problem of getting irrigation, you know, throughout the industry is an issue. So that's why I turned this bill into what it is today, with obviously the guidance of the potato board. I'm hopeful that the committee will take that idea and run with it. Something that could have been really bad for the industry turned out great, and that's awesome. But there's still an issue there for seasons to come, and this may be a way to help people in the future for when we really do have drought conditions that affects them very negatively. So with that, I'm going to stop. I called Jeremy. I see he's on. Yeah. So I look forward to the committee. And I'll take any questions.
Representative Underwood.
Hi, good to see you, Senator Jackson. And what I'm not sure if this is who the correct person is to ask this question. Basically, is funding. It's how will it be funded? If you could assist, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. Well, there's a number of ways. I mean, there's a number of ARPA money that has come in. I think 50 million of it was put towards our natural resource sector. Clearly, there's surplus money right now on the appropriations table. Obviously, it's if this committee and then the legislature chooses to make something like this a priority.
Thank you.
Representative Hall.
Yes, thank you, Senator Dill, and thank you.
You've frozen up, I believe, Representative Hall.
President Jackson, for bringing this bill forward. Something that you're looking for, I don't know.
You want to unmute and try it again, Representative Hall?
We can try it. It keeps going in and out. I've heard most everything this morning, but I'm not sure whether it's on my end or where it is. The question I had was on your grant. Is this to like piggyback on the you know, irrigation? USDA, you have to put a portion of your own money in, and I just was curious if this was going to like piggyback onto that, or what your thoughts was.
Representative Hall, I think I got enough of that to understand, and to be, you know, really blunt. You know, we had this bill. I saw a real need early on, and things changed. Working with Don Flannery, he came up with this amendment and this idea. So this is the potato board's attempt to try and help with irrigation and drought conditions in the future. So I don't know how it works with the USDA. I think somebody like Don or maybe Jeremy, who's going to speak, could speak to that, but that's something that I haven't had experience in.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for introducing the bill this morning. Senator Black, I see that you are on the screen now. Would you introduce yourself? And are you in Augusta? Because Cheryl needs to know that if you're in Augusta.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Russ Black from Wilton. I'm at the State House this morning. I represent Senate District 17, which is all of Franklin County, 4 towns in Kennebec, Belgrade, Mount Vernon, Vienna, and Fayette.
And I'll try Senator Maxman one more time if she's available to introduce herself. And I guess she's not. So we'll move on to Nancy McBrady.
Good morning.
Morning.
Pull up my testimony. I have a lot of things on my screen. Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Nancy McBrady, and I am the Director of the Maine Bureau of Agriculture, Food, and Rural Resources. I am speaking on behalf of the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. neither for nor against LD 1998, an act to establish a disaster relief fund for potato farmers adversely affected by drought conditions. As written, this bill establishes the Potato Farmers Disaster Relief Grant Program to assist Maine potato farmers in recovering from the adverse effects of drought conditions. They will be eligible to apply for these grants if, due to drought conditions, their potato yield is significantly lower than the expected crop yield, according to the most recent agricultural yield survey done by the USDA's National Agricultural Statistics Service. This original bill does not provide any funding for the proposed grant program. While the bill allows the department to accept funds from public and private sources, the department is not aware of any funders likely to invest in such a program. Further, we are concerned about the deep complexity of administering essentially a risk mitigation program for existing federal programs. For instance, the USDA's Risk Management Agency already oversees crop insurance programs to protect potato growers against losses due to adverse weather conditions, including drought and excess precipitation. However, the department understands that there is an amendment being offered to this committee, which would alter the scope of the bill to create a fund open to all agricultural producers that are adversely affected by drought conditions. We support this proposed amendment, which will give the department the flexibility to craft a funding mechanism to support sustainable, practicable, and affordable sources for irrigation water to alleviate the risk of crop losses due to drought. Asking the department to create a risk mitigation formula based on annual yields by individual potato farmers would be much more complex and challenging than the proposed amendment, directing the department instead to develop a fund aimed at technical assistance and broader irrigation resources. This is an issue that has been a focus of the Maine Agricultural Water Management Board, which has prioritized the need to secure more targeted funding and support for water resource planning and irrigation projects. Maine has abundant water resources, but not necessarily enough in the right place or at the right time. Many agricultural commodities experienced significant drought in 2020, with dry conditions beginning in mid-May, but rapidly worsening in June that year. The University of Maine's 2020 Maine Drought and Agriculture Report indicates that climate change leads to changes in temperature and precipitation. And climate scientists anticipate that these changes will intensify in the coming decades. Just as critical as funding sustainable irrigation projects is the need to support technical assistance that helps producers adopt enhanced soil health practices, such as more crop rotations, expanded use of cover crops, reduced tillage, and enhanced nutrient management, all of which will promote improved crop production. These practices will also help to build resilience for farms in the face of climate change and projected incidences of excessive rainfall or prolonged periods of drought and temperature variability, which we're already experiencing. Enhanced funding for improved soil quality, provisions for sufficient water volume, and timely application of that water will result in crop consistency and quality demanded by many potatoes and other vegetable processors and producers. We would urge utilizing this fund broadly to meet these multiple needs and goals. While the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry is neither for nor against this legislation as currently written, again, we support the amendment proposed by the Maine Potato Board and supported by Senator Jackson. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony, and I'm happy to answer any questions now or at the work session.
Are there any questions for Director McBrady? All right, seeing none, thank you. Next is Chris Jackson, representing the Maine Potato Board this morning. Welcome, Chris.
Good morning. Chairman Dill, Chairwoman O'Neill, and members of the committee. My name is Chris Jackson. I am a resident of Bodenham and a partner in the lobby firm of Mitchell Tardy Jackson here in Augusta. And I'm here today on behalf of our client, the Maine Potato Board, to speak in support of LD 1998. Donald Flannery, the executive director of the Maine Potato Board, is traveling today, and he had asked me to relay his testimony to you this morning. He does send his regrets, but will be here for the work session. And he did also specifically ask for me to thank President Jackson and the other co-sponsors for submitting this bill in support of the potato industry. The potato industry, as well as others in Maine agriculture, are experiencing the effects of climate change. Some of those changes have had a positive impact, such as longer growing seasons, and a few days in the spring and fall can make a big difference in yield and crop quality. But we've also experienced, in many cases, a drier growing season, as you've heard. And in 2019, Maine potato farmers saw a 25% decrease in harvested yield. This bill would create a fund to help potato growers experiencing yield loss due to drought conditions, a state crop insurance program, if you will. And this is where it gets tricky, as you've already heard from the department. As anyone that's been involved in the USDA risk management crop insurance program knows, one size doesn't fit all. It's complicated. While we support President Jackson's efforts to provide resources to potato farmers, we question if the department currently has the interest or capacity, frankly, to administer this type of risk management crop insurance program. And to that end, Mr. Flannery has drafted an amendment for your consideration that would create a fund to accept funding when available to Maine farmers, all Maine farmers, not just potato growers, to help them develop sustainable, environmentally sound and affordable water sources, and will allow growers to be proactive as it relates to climate change and drought conditions. We have been working with the DEP for a number of years to find resources for irrigation development, but without a source of water, we'll continue to have limited ability to irrigate and manage risk for Maine farmers. This program could be stood up and administered by the department and provide Maine growers the needed support for water development. We ask you to support this amendment, which I believe the committee has on file, to develop and support water source development. And again, Don will be available at the work session for any questions you have or additional context that the committee may wish to hear.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Jackson? Seeing none. Thank you for your testimony this morning.
Thank you all very much. Have a good day.
Next is Jeremy Pelletier. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm Jeremy Pelletier. I'm Vice President of Edwin Pelletier & Sons in Frenchville, Maine. I've been a third-generation potato grower since the company my grandfather started in 1938. We farm in Frenchville and multiple surrounding towns. Again, thanks for having me. There's a few points I want to cover. So I've heard, there's obviously a lot of talks already that improving soil health and crop rotations and reduced tillage and all kinds of things, cover crops, better nutrition programs and fertility programs and better seed. All these things are great, and they're things that we've been doing every year. We've been increasing for the past 10 years. We've been really adamant to grow these programs and to do better and to mitigate our risk with the climate change and the drought conditions we've been having. It just seems that sometimes it doesn't matter what you do, and you can do everything correctly. You just need the added rainfall to produce a crop. In the past 6 consecutive years, I think, through the growing season, we've had some type of drought. Luckily, we've been managed to stay afloat throughout. Some years are worse than others. This year, when I got to August, I think it was late August or mid-August, and I was looking at the crop and the performance. It was very frightening and very disturbing. And I know I wasn't the only one. I reached out to Troy. Honestly, I didn't know who else to reach out to. I said, I had Troy come over and I showed him farms, and I told him, I said, there's such an investment here. And I wasn't only speaking for myself. I was speaking for multiple other growers who we were all in the same situation in northern Aroostook. So at the time, I mean, we were looking at a 50% loss of a crop. I mean, it was just brutal what we were looking at. We did everything we could. We gave it time. We extended our season an extra week of growing. Luckily, we got some late season rain that sized them up just enough to, be able to harvest. We harvested green, which usually when we will top kill our potatoes to help them mature and keep a better quality. So anyway, we did everything we could to achieve what we had. And some crops, some farms, we had probably a 25 to 30% cut in yield. And we had some farms that averaged normal, and some maybe a bit above average, 10, 15% above. So overall, we ended up with, a good quality to sell in a fair size, and we lucked out. With this being said, we need to, it kind of scared us to the point where we need to look for the infrastructure to save our industry. I've seen articles that say if you're not irrigation farmers, and within the next 40 years you're going to be out of business. So that's pretty terrifying if you think of it. And we have other programs that are available, like you guys mentioned, through USDA. Right now, they're way behind on the times. They just pay a drop in the bucket because the cost of everything has increased. I'm not saying it's a bad program. It's just not feasible for a lot of farmers. There's no way we'll be able to irrigate 100% of our acreage. That's just not even. But for every percent we can irrigate, it's gonna reduce our risk dramatically, and it'll help sustain our industry. So I think it's a good thing to look into. I know out west we have to compete with Idaho and Washington a lot, and Michigan and multiple other potato producing states. And I mean, they literally have pipelines coming up from local lakes with water, and it's very easy for them to access the water because I believe it's a government thing where they have these pipelines. They can tap into them. The farmers can irrigate, and and we have to compete against these guys that obviously they have a bit of an edge over us. And this year Northern Aroostook was hit the hardest. Last year it was Central Aroostook that had a harder hit. And the downfall of that is if a portion of the county produces heavy versus the other portion, the people who are light on potatoes still have to pay their bills, and they have to compete with people who had surplus, and obviously that affects revenue. People with surplus will let their crop go for cheaper, and so it's kind of it's troubling. It's not only me. At the time, I don't know, countless farmers, and everybody was for it. After harvest, we kind of we regrouped, and I called Troy and I told him, I says, Troy, I said, we're not off as bad as we once thought, but we thank you. I said, we have enough we have enough volume. We're not in as bad a shape as, but he's, like he said, he doesn't want this to go to nothing either, because it's a problem, and it's a problem that's been happening for, like I said, the past 6 consecutive years, where Aroostook County has been had dry spells, which has affected. So I think I made most of the points I wanted to make. If anybody has any questions, I'm here. I'm willing to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Pelletier? Representative McCray.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here, Mr. Pelletier. You mentioned something, your words, drop in the bucket regarding financing of irrigation equipment, et cetera, in our system. And while I agree that the future and perhaps the salvation of farming, especially potatoes, is going to be in irrigation over the next few decades and probably forever. When you said drop in the bucket, how big a drop in the bucket, I guess is what I'm asking.
Am I still, my volume's still on? Okay. So I guess we're looking to put an irrigation in right now. One big thing is underground pipe. Okay, so they pay you so much a foot for underground pipe that's approved. You know, of course they send in engineers and they only allow certain things and you have to do everything their way. So I believe there was a point where the pipe was cheaper, obviously. I think they pay roughly $2 a foot for pipe. It's like a PVC 6-inch, or depending on the size of the pipe, they increase or decrease the value. It's a calculation they have. Anyway, so I don't have those numbers in front of me, but right now the pipe is up to about $12 a foot. So literally we're paying $10 a foot a difference of pipe. So I have 1,700 feet that I have to go that's approved, and I have 1,700 feet that's not approved. So there's not going to pay anything for that. And the reason that there's approved parts and not approved parts is because from where I'm drawing the water, I farmed this land for a long time. I know there's bountiful water there, but my permit only allows me to draw water certain times of the year. So because they say the water flow's too low, which I don't agree on. And then they also say that there is birds hatching at certain times of the year and they don't want the noise to disrupt the birds. So there's multiple, and I have a list of guidelines I have to follow. So in order to get myself secure, I have to pump water from the pond when I can't, from the small river that's there, and I have to pump it up to a pond, and then I'll pump it back from the pond to irrigate my potatoes as I need it. But I mean, how feasible is that, having to pump the same water twice? And it's just but more or less that's the only way I can do it to get my need. And the USDA only allows the pipe from the brook to the irrigation, and they're not going to do anything with the pond. And they have guidelines too. You have to understand, I guess they want to help us as much as they can. They look to increase the budget to increase the payment rates for things. And they've come up with nothing. They're not able to increase the rates. I talked to my representative on that just 2 weeks ago, and he says it's the same rates that have been out there for the past, I don't know, maybe 10 years or so. So even though the equipment goes up, I priced out this same irrigation. I don't know, it was roughly 2 years ago, I think. And the irrigation system, all said and done, would have been about $80-some thousand. Now it's well over 120. And that's what it was when I quoted it last fall. And they told me they were going up some more. So we haven't purchased it yet, but it's definitely something we need to do to sustain our industry.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Mr. Pelletier? Yes, Representative Underwood.
Yeah, Mr. Pelletier, thank you for coming this morning. You spoke of regulations that were complicating your decision regarding the cost of your irrigation. Yeah, are those federal regulations or state regulations?
I believe they're state. So the district or the territory where I want to irrigate there, some of it's controlled to get permits is DEP, some of it's LERC, and that particular is from LERC, and I believe they're following state guidelines.
Thank you.
Representative Hall.
This isn't as much of a question as just a comment, but thank you, Mr. Pelletier, for being here. I spoke with the salesman down to MPG yesterday there, Linwood Winslow, about the irrigation systems, and probably you have dealt with him or whatnot. And he said that the availability for parts for the irrigation systems is very limited, and that he questioned if you was even going to be able to put them in this year, as far as because of the cost. And you did mention that you went from 80,000 to 120,000, and he said the cost is just astronomical. It keeps just going up almost every week, and I feel for you guys. I do.
Thank you.
Other questions? Representative Underwood, is your hand just left up, or do you have another question?
One question, I guess, basically is, if you could give us, or send at least to me, the LERC regulations that could help you to be eliminated, it could help you with your irrigation costs, it would be appreciated.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. I know there's multiple things where I would have to I have to actually purchase a water flow measuring tool, which is a few $1,000s. I don't know. I haven't purchased it yet. I have to measure the water flow before I can turn on the pump. And I have to report them to this on a certain basis. I have to keep records. I can send you a copy of my permit, and on it explains all the limitations from.
That would be a good start.
Yeah,
that'd be a good start. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Pelletier? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony this morning. Next, I have James Cody. Good morning.
Good morning, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members.
And he's gone.
Yes, he'll be back in a second. That was me screwing up. Somebody moved on the screen and I got him instead. I apologize. Oh, for crying out loud. Here he comes. Sorry about that.
Welcome back. Cyberspace is great, huh?
I bet you all wish you had that button for lobbyists more often. Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the committee, my name is James Cody. I live in Farmington, Maine, and work for Bernstein Shore. And I'm here today on behalf of McCain Foods USA. As many of you probably already know, McCain Foods is a leading supplier of frozen potato food products for the food service market, retail grocery chains, private label brands in restaurants, and supermarket freezers across the country. McCain Foods is headquartered in Oak Brook Terrace, Illinois, and employs 4,000 people and operates production facilities in Easton, Maine, Idaho, Nebraska, Washington, and Wisconsin. I'll be very brief. We're here today in support of the proposed amendment, and really to say that we're all in favor on behalf of McCain Foods of supporting Maine's potato growing industry and sector. We know that these are tough times with the economics, with the impacts of climate change. And so we just wanted to offer our support for this initiative, and to let you all know, in addition to Senator Jackson, who we appreciate bringing the legislation forward, and the Maine Potato Board, that we'd be more than happy to participate and support in any conversations that support Maine's potato growers going forward. I'd be happy to answer any questions or bring back information, but really just wanted to be here today in support of Maine's potato growing industry. And I will flag that you probably Have not heard from McCain Foods a lot in the past, but we do intend to be more active here going forward. So if we can be a partner on any front, please let us know.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Cody? All right, seeing none, thank you for your testimony this morning.
Thank you, Senator.
Cheryl, is that all we have for testimonies this morning? It is. All right.
Yes.
Then with that, I will close the public hearing on LD 1998, an act to establish a disaster relief fund for potato farmers adversely affected by drought conditions. And those are the only things we had, but I'm sure Karen probably has some stuff for us this morning.
Yeah, actually, language review for yet another committee bill. I sent you the latest version of it last night. This has to do with pesticide sales and use reports. So I can share my screen. The committee voted to submit a committee bill on this topic, and essentially in the summary, I included the standard language that this bill is reported out for the sole purpose of turning the proposal into a printed bill. The intent is that it would be referred back to the committee for the public hearing and subsequent processing in the normal course. So section 1 of the bill requires an applicant for pesticide registration to include any information about the pesticide at the time of registration, including but not limited to pounds of active ingredients per gallon of liquid formulations of the pesticide, type of pesticide, the expected use of the pesticide, and information on the pesticide product label that describes the acute toxicity of the formulated pesticide product or other toxicity data specified by the Bureau. So I think in the report, they refer to signal words, which is an industry term for words like caution, warning, danger on the pesticide label. So that was section 1. Section 2, current law requires all commercial applicators and spray contracting firms to maintain records indicating the type and amount of pesticide used, the area of use, and other information the board may require by rule. This proposal requires commercial agricultural producers to also maintain records relating to pesticide sales and use. And it also provides a definition of commercial agricultural producer. And then section 3 is the confidentiality provision. It provides that information provided to the board to fulfill reporting requirements is public unless designated as confidential by the board. A commercial agricultural producer to whom the information belongs or pertains may request that it be designated as confidential, and the board has determined it contains proprietary information. And section 4, current law requires any person who distributes general use pesticides to licensed general use pesticide dealers in the state to keep and maintain records of sales for annual reporting purposes. This bill requires any person who distributes pesticides in the state to report the amount of sales regardless to whom the sales are made. And this section also requires any person who distributes general use pesticides to submit required annual reports electronically. And then section 5 requires the board to amend rules relating to record keeping and reporting requirements, adjust reporting requirements for commercial pesticide applicators to tailor the reports. Number 2, modify commercial use summary report to require identification of pesticide applications on school grounds. And number 3, require electronic submittal of commercial applicator use annual summary and restricted use pesticide dealer sales annual summary reports. And finally, in section 6, it directs the Board of Pesticides Control to convene a series of stakeholder meetings with parties required to submit sales and use reports and entities interested in sales and use data to understand the types of questions to which the data might be applied. And the board is also required to consider data security issues for all collected information and identify ways by which sales and use data can be collected and protected. The board is required to submit a report of the stakeholder group to this committee March 1st of next year. And then the committee has authority to submit a bill to the first regular of the 131st legislature. So that's the bill. And of course, with a public hearing and work sessions, there'll be an opportunity to tweak it for those who are in favor of the proposal. Any questions?
Representative McCray.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Back in that section 1 where the things that would be required to get a permit to do this, it mentions, I think, pounds per gallon of liquid, something to that effect. And while that is one dilution rate, the number of gallons per 1,000 square feet or number of gallons per acre or what have you seems to, in my mind, to be maybe more important, because if that gallon is being spread over 5 acres, that's one thing. If it's being spread over 1,000 square feet, that's very much another. So I don't know if that's something to consider before we get far along on this or not.
Are there other questions? I don't, I think what will happen is Representative McCray probably during the hearing in the work session is probably when we can have those type of discussions on what is the best way to delineate liquids, powders. I think if you remember, Megan Patterson talked about pounds of active ingredient, and for most cases that was an important thing, or maybe it was Pam Breyer, I don't remember which, but on occasion some liquids doesn't translate well. So
Right. Well, if I'm over in another committee, would somebody raise that question when we get? Okay. Yep. Thank you very much.
Representative Underwood.
Hi, 2 questions for Mrs. Netto. And basically the first question is, who writes the lines of accounting for these bills?
I'm sorry, who? I missed that.
Who writes lines of accounting for these bills? In other words, who moves the funds via line of accounting from one source to another source and to the final destination, which would be probably obviously the department. For example, if the line of accounting, I wrote lines of accounting a little bit and for the federal government. So when we wrote it, we know where the department was it was coming from. We knew which section it was going to, and we provided the route of the funds. And basically, I was wondering, maybe that's something that the main revenue service would handle. And in order to understand what the process of where the funds are coming from and where they're going to, you need a line of accounting probably for the state. I don't know, for the federal government, for everything. We had lines of accounting for just about for anything that we move, any and all funds that we moved. Basically, I was interested in funding for LD 1998. I guess you're the wrong person to ask for that question. Funding for LD 1998, how is the funding written down that you receive in order to be able to craft a bill and determine the cost of the bill?
So I think once a amendment or bill is drafted, you have a fiscal analyst who works at the Office of Fiscal and Program Review, and they typically contact the state agency in development of the fiscal impact of the bill. So they get the information from whoever is impacted by it, and that's how, you know, that nonpartisan staff office develops the fiscal note. But it sounds like there were questions about funding for that bill, that there's so I guess that would be a question maybe for the Bureau of Agriculture at the work session.
Okay, so you need to contact the Office of Fiscal Responsibility. What was the name of the? What was the name?
Office of Fiscal and Program Review, OFPR.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Representative Osher.
Yes, so thank you very much for presenting this, and I'm a little surprised that it doesn't include a more, it doesn't say anything about geography, where, such as where pesticides were applied, and it does not require reporting any more often than annually, according to my read of this. And while I understand that people who were applying felt that it was a burden to have to enter the data electronically, and this paper does mention electronically, I think that there's a missed opportunity to capture the information so that it's available, and so that we can also study how there's been changes over time. As climate changes, we have different pests, they emerge at different times, and this is data that we could be using to understand how the rate that we apply and the times that we apply differ as the climate changes. And so we're losing the opportunity to have that data so that we can make better decisions about managing pesticides. And with the goal is to minimize pesticide use, but one way to minimize something is to understand exactly how it's used and then make informed decisions. So I think that without describing a more regular reporting period than a year, it's taking the guts out of what the goal of the bill was.
Well, I guess in response to that, I did my best to draft legislation that reflected the recommendations that were in the report on pages 22 and 23. I did send this to the Department Board of Pesticides Control the first time on Monday, and they said they needed time to digest the committee bill. So I don't have that feedback, but you know, as Senator Dill said, this is really a committee bill for the purposes of holding a public hearing on it, work session. And so, you know, I made note of your concerns about the committee bill, and you know, we can obviously amend it as we move forward.
So excuse me, may I speak?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So the process here is that this is a draft of the bill that we will have a public hearing and then we'll have a work session?
Absolutely. And that's why the language, the first paragraph of the summary, you know, really tries to get the point across that not everyone on the committee necessarily supports the proposal as drafted, that it's solely for the purpose of having the normal, you know, process on the bill. You know, I try my best to reflect the intent of the report, but you know, obviously things will come out during the public hearing and work session process.
Well, I appreciate the work that you've done, and I know that you did reach out to the Board of Pesticides Control. I thought that after the last time we spoke about this, that Director Patterson and I were going to be speaking, but then I heard from Representative O'Neill that the process would be that you'd write something up and check with both of us. And I do appreciate that you sent it to me yesterday, and I looked it over. And so these are my comments from seeing the original before it went to the legal, came back from legal, and then after the came back from legal. So I appreciate it. I mean, certainly with our concerns about PFAS, and we're understanding that figuring out where that sludge was applied is very important now. And it's very difficult to collect that information when it wasn't organized in a way that it would be useful back then when the sludge was applied. And back then when sludge was applied regularly, and it started to be applied after the Clean Water Act, there was not the kind of database tools that we have. The technology is so fabulous for this, for collecting information so that it can be queried later when we find out, oh, something we humans did had the problem that we didn't intend. That's pretty standard. Technology is a great thing, and we find out later the ways in which it missed the mark for the things we weren't focusing on. So anyway, so there's my pitch on why I'm very interested in both the geography piece and the more regular reporting. And I believe what I've seen in the energy efficiency work I do, where the energy efficiency specialists are supposed to enter data to be used by Efficiency Maine, is the more we do that, the better we get at it. It's less of a burden to communicate through using these technology tools of databases. So there's my pitch, and I look forward to us being able to talk about it at a work session. Well, first hear it at a public hearing and then talk at a work session. And I guess I'd still would like to see it have a little bit more detail about both the geography piece and a more regular reporting piece in the text, if that's possible.
Representative Underwood.
I'm all set. Thank you.
All right.
Chairman.
Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to say, just thinking about timing and how much we want to discuss, that we have two options to just to lay them out. I think Representative Osher, if you can articulate in particular what it is you want to adjust. This is a language review, so it's possible to make a tweak. And if that's possible to do now, I think that works to offer it so that folks have notice of what you're thinking. And if not, another option is to present it at the public hearing so that people can have that too. So is it something that you could articulate now, or do you feel like, Karen, do you feel like that's enough? I don't know. Just trying to think of how to get to the meat of the suggestion, I suppose. Because we'll have the public hearing to be able to talk about reasons and stuff like that.
Go ahead, Karen.
I think, excuse me, in the interest of time, I need to get something to revisers for them, and OFPR, although they may not produce a fiscal impact statement, but I don't know if this would be a good route to take, but I could submit the committee bill as currently drafted. And then in the meantime, maybe I could work with Representative Osher on an amendment to the bill that she could present at the public hearing. I'm just afraid, in the interest of time, I do need to get this to revisers as soon as possible so that it makes it on the March 9 calendar, so that we do get it referred back to the committee. Because after March 9th, the next time that the House and Senate are in session is the 17th, and we're kind of running out of time. So I don't know if that's an acceptable kind of way to move forward.
I think for expediency, that is probably the best way to do it. Because like you said, if we miss the 9th, we're out more than a week after that. And at that time, it may or may not even get referred depending on what happens. So I would go back to Representative Osher and see if she's willing to work with Karen in the interim to put an amendment together to be able to present at the public hearings or work session.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm willing, and I'm new at this process, so when I didn't make comments that I could just say I want this word changed and that word changed, because I didn't realize that I needed to do that by today. So I really would look forward to the opportunity to work with Karen, and of course we could come up with something. I know how concerned everyone is for the PFAS, and that seemed to me that an understanding of that. This is why I want to collect the data, is so that in the future we can use it to help people. I think people are understanding that. So it's not that I want to put farmers in its position where what they do every day is on view for the public. It's that I want that to be documented. Although the title of this says, for use by the public, I'm looking at the long view. So yes, let's talk about this, Karen, and we'll put together an amendment.
Are there other questions for Karen on this bill? Nope. Okay, Karen, what else?
That's it.
That's it. Cheryl, do you have anything? No. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Representative.
So moved.
oh, sorry.
Yep, but go
Sorry.
ahead before we
Senator
adjourn.
Black needs to get me his 1075, LD 1075 approval.
I'll be over shortly.
Okay.
I move we adjourn, Senator Dill.
Moved and seconded by Representative Schofield, seconded by Representative O'Neill. All in favor? None opposed. Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Oh, and if anybody wants to caucus, I'll jump onto the Zoom that Cheryl made. If folks want to talk, I'll be there. So
Have a
somebody
great
asked me
weekend,
that.
everybody.
You too.
See you
Bye.
all.
Bye.
Cheryl, is that in our email? I don't even know.
Yeah,
I'll Google. I'll
I can
just
send it
look
back out again if you want.
I'll look.
Should be. It's a reoccurring one. Yeah.
Yes, I'd like it if you sent it out.
Okay.
It'll be the top one.
I will send it to you too. I just don't want to send it out to the